Massive conspiracy to get this guy killed. Is it about him now or his father? Because also, where were the bodyguards we already mentioned were escorting him to these brothels? Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we are back with another episode of the Apothecary Diaries. We are on episode 8 now. I forget what the name on the next time was, but before anything else, we have a comment. Kelvin from the Patreon from the episode Homecoming says, regarding pre-episode discussion, so I did some quick skimming of previous episodes, and it looks like the Emperor's younger brother was first mentioned in episode 6 at 307, when Guai Yang is explaining the Empress Dowager to Maomao. To be fair, I only quickly skimmed each episode, so someone else can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly positive this is the first time we hear about the younger brother. I did go back to the timestamp that you said in episode 6. I'm pretty sure, and by pretty sure, I'm about to emote a feeling, so pretty sure about a thing I feel is not exactly the same as fact. I'm pretty sure that what I'm thinking about is something that happens before that. But then again, as I explained, I cannot remember one, or the thing I'm thinking about. So it might just be a false fact, like a thing that I think happened that didn't actually happen. So I don't know. Either way, I haven't included things I'm apparently making up in my notes, so not being spoiled for anything, really. That said, next up, though, we have the board. And I'll say nothing really changes. All I've really done is I connected Lihaku to Granny and Parin with a white line, because obviously that's really the only change in relationship that happens. Last episode is that Lihaku gets introduced to Granny, who basically makes him a mark. And I think the idea is that Parin is going to serve him tea, but Parin has a thing for muscles, which is, I guess, is being implied to us. So maybe I should have attached a purple arrow to some of these people in different directions. I don't know. We will find out, because apparently we've still got time to be spent back in these homecoming episodes, as it were. So we'll find out. Alright, on to notes. I suppose it is an interesting character note that even after having revealed to everyone that the freckles were fake, and the reason behind them being the threat of the area she originally lived in and isn't currently in now, that she doesn't feel at ease without them still. So, sorry, I can't think of the example that was coming to my head just a moment ago. It is something like a comfort blanket to her. Would be the best example I could think of, but more so than that. I guess like a cop that doesn't feel safe without a bulletproof vest, even though they're not out in the field anymore, is, I guess, a better example. I feel like the show has indicated to me that I was wrong about my guess of Gao Shun's position as minister, based on his seating arrangement and the fact that said minister got poisoned, and Gao Shun just shows back up immediately. But then after Maomao references his seating arrangement, and that he must be a high-ranking official as well, makes me second-guess myself about being wrong. Gao Shun later says he scooped some into a spoon. Sorry, he's referring to the soup. He scooped some of the soup into a spoon to see if it was poisoned. which could be the event of people asking what the minister was doing back at the garden party, but that still doesn't align with the reports that said minister collapsed, even though I noted the fact that Jinshi passed Gao Shun the emetic later on, which would have helped him out with that. I just feel like I'm being pulled back and forth on this. Was Gao Shun the minister, or was he not the minister aspect? All right, another conspiracy notice. Is it just me, or is Hong Yang a bit sparkly-eyed lately? Maomao says that to herself. Remembering also that Gyokyo had the private conversation in the past where they made a comment about now having someone that could make medicines, specifically to Hong Yang, I mean, suspiciously while walking in the shadow of the room, which is often a visual indicator towards shadiness happening. So, my eye about Hung Yang, even though she seems so innocent, fun, and happy, her and Gyokyo not off of my conspiracy radar in the slightest. I in fact believe they're red herrings. Or, I mean, not red herrings. Red herrings would imply that they're not the conspiracy. I believe that their happy, outgoing nature and want to support the main character is the red herring. And maybe there's an element of the fact that they're also wearing red all the time. Is supposed to make me think that they are red herrings. I don't know. I felt suspicious of Maomao knowing about fingerprints, as it seemed like it would be outside of her wheelhouse of available knowledge. So I did a quick lookup. A quick Google search says that fingerprints have been used as far back as 1000 BC in place of signatures on official documents in places such as China. Besides which, Maomao's explanation of trapping items where she used to work would imply less a knowledge of fingerprints and more a matter of staining people's fingers to find out who has been touching stuff. Now, that said, that would fit what she's doing with the bowl, finding where the fingerprints were. Because even though she's like figuring out all the stuff around fingerprints, she's not actually fingerprinting, which I guess is more acceptable to what a person in the time might know. I don't know. I went over this in my head quite a bit. The fact that Maomao is constantly showing herself to be like at the highest level of knowledge a person of her time could be. And it feels very weird for Maomao, a character for the slums, from the slums, to have this much knowledge. And I think I indicated before the fact that she knows more than like palace royals do. It's weird. It's something I hope the show expounds upon later. I'm really still in a bind when it comes to my consideration about Kanan. The idea that she would switch the food just to harass the person she's serving seems so far out of field for how all the other servants seem to treat their consorts that I'd have to wonder how she's even able to get by there. Like how Li Hao's main lady in waiting got locked up for some time for the facial powder incident. I don't feel like you could get away with this sort of harassment towards the consort of two emperors, at least not without a large number of people willing to go along with it. Like all of the other ladies in waiting, and I guess any eunuchs in the area that wouldn't then report to Jinshi. I understand that Li Shu is something of a pariah among the consorts, but I don't think that adequately explains all of the effort if Maomao is right. Like, it'd be like, we're going to assassinate the president levels of conspiracy to just make sure this girl is unhappy. And that doesn't really tie up well. Also, I hope nobody takes that quote out of context, given the current political state. or I'm going to be having a hard time later. Despite what I said just a moment ago about it seeming improbable that so many people could get by with said harassment, you better, you better not. Sorry, I'm responding to the comment section now all of a sudden. Anyway, about it seeming improbable that so many people could get by with said harassment without more people who wouldn't be a part of it taking notice and interceding. Seeing that scene where Maomao implies that the ladies in waiting tricked Lishu into picking a dress specifically to humiliate her really pissed me off. There is just something about seeing the excited face of a little girl and knowing that, again, if Maomao is right, that they are just doing this to hurt her, really makes me want to see them pay. I'm trapped between the possibility of thinking that Kanan is throwing herself under the bus, as I said before, to try and save Li Shu, and the idea that these women are just scumbags and need to pay. Listing this here, in case I need to come back to it later. Possible future clue to a person with a rash on their hands and a burnt dress from before. That they might also be the poisoner, and thus the clue that they touched the rim of the bowl, and Maomao's statement that she had to be taught the fact that you don't touch that part of the bowl where the noble's lips should go, might indicate that the poisoner is of similar status to Maomao, in that it might be someone they might not, it might be someone that might not inherently know that fact. Otherwise, it might be something that they did know and did on purpose. It's an unhelpful clue. It's an unhelpful clue, but it's a clue nonetheless. Jinshi's true nature showing might reflect the mirror of Maomao's freckles. That they both are putting on a show to appear differently to the people around them. Jinshi appearing more prim and proper to those that expect it, and Maomao looking more downtrodden and humble than she actually is. I suppose the other tidbit is the fact that Gao Shun has been looking after Jinshi since he was born. What sort of person would have someone looking after them since birth? Another shot in the dark here from the conspiracy mind. Given all the questions I've had about what Jinshi actually does, and all his added authority, and now knowing he's had this person looking after him since birth, what if he was a son of the former emperor? In fact, we know that the emperor has a younger brother, and Jinshi appears fairly young. The younger brother appeared at the garden party and left early, apparently. We never saw Jinshi there, and he showed up in the episode later outside of the garden party. I questioned what his hairpin meant, and Gao Shun says it was hidden in your hair. I don't think anyone noticed your true status. So, again, conspiracy mind out, putting it out there. Maybe Jinshi is the Emperor's younger brother. It would answer, well, I don't know if it would answer, it would solve for a number of questions. And the things that have been stated in the back and forth between Jinshi and Gao Shun, I mean, it would go a ways. I'll say this, I've never heard my computer make that noise before, so I don't know what the hell that was. Speaking of the hairpin, the camera focuses on it for quite a bit. Couldn't really make out what the animal was on the ball, though. My guess is that it is a Keelin, which is also ironically said to appear with the imminent arrival or death of a sage or illustrious ruler. So it would, work for the arrival of Maomao as a sage, I guess, or the death of the emperor. Or ironically, I guess, if you think about the emperor's kids as an illustrious ruler possible, then I mean, technically, Maomao showed up at nearest the same time as the death of Prince. So, my best guess, though, I couldn't really make it out. Could have been a lion. Could have been a really furry yak. I don't know. Keelan is a legendary creature that I'm familiar with that also is in China. So, interesting thing that happens when Maomao brings up the Verdigris house to Lihaku. Symbolic flower petals fly all around her in the scene, but the thing I find interesting about it is that those are the very same flower petals that fly around her in the opening when she is freckleless and in her dancing outfit, meaning that there is something more symbolic about them than just artistically making things more impressive from Lihaku's perspective. Whatever is being implied here in this scene is also being implied in the opening. Here's another odd thing about the sub versus dub difference. In the sub, Maomao says Peirin, Joka, and Mei, or Mai. Sorry, I don't know how to say her name. I haven't heard it in a long time. But in the dub, she says Heidi, Joka, and Mei. Even more curious, when they get to Granny, and she asks for Peirin in both the dub and the sub. In fact, somebody else says Peirin after that, too. So for some reason, when she's talking to Lihaku, she says Heidi instead of Peirin, and then nobody else ever repeats that. I'm pretty sure the girl in the next time on is the girl who is sweeping the leaves in one particular shot when Maomao and Lihaku are riding the wagon into the pleasure district. Specifically, when she is thinking to herself about how many local girls enter the brothels wanting to become courtesan, but even if they become a servant girl, a courtesan in training, that there is no guarantee that they'll make it. I assume that this was our hint towards what the next episode is about. And my last note here is that obvious thing is obvious. Dad is connected to the rear palace somehow. There is no second guessing that look and comment at the end of the episode, but to what meaning? I mean, I feel like I'm supposed to suspect Dad in whatever plot conspiracy I think is going on with the poisoner and the Emperor's kids, but this is the first too obvious thing that I would suspect to be a red herring. And of course, we have a comment from the live chat because, of course, we record these live. Is Rogue Knight pointing out that another Chinese anime I watch had different names in Japanese since they couldn't pronounce certain names. I wonder if English dub is faithful to the source and reintroduces their actual names. Uh, that's what I'm pointing out. Is that Perrin's name is repeated by all other characters in the episode. Granny says Perrin. I think the girl who's taking Lihaku in says Perrin as well. Uh, Maomao is the only character that said Heidi instead of Perrin. I don't know why. I'm. I think she says Perrin later too. I think she says Perrin has a thing for guys with muscles, or Perrin's only going to serve him tea, or something. She says Perrin herself later, I think. It's just in the scene where she is talking about the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house to Lihaku to sell him on the idea. She says Heidi in the same line that the sub is saying Perrin. So I don't know. It is really weird. That said, though, those are all of my notes. That is the board as it stands. I don't really have anything else to go over here. So I think the next thing to do is to go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
All right. I almost forgot myself that I have to talk over this for copyright reasons. I will, one of these days, do a rereading of the lyrics of the opening, just to see if they reapply to anything that's been happening so far. Because I read them the first time that I watched the first episode, knowing that they weren't going to be showing on the screen because of whatever's going on here. Because, I've done a breakdown of the opening on a visual level in like a couple of my notes. But I haven't really done a breakdown of the lyrics as it might apply to anything. And I feel like we're far enough in that I could figure out what they might apply to. These are the flower petals I was talking about before. I mean, they're much larger here, but they're basically the same in that scene with Lihaku. The same way that, she's licking her lips there in much the same way that she does towards Lihaku. Well, not towards Lihaku. When she's like, I want more of that poison, and Lihaku is watching her at the garden party. That's what I'm indicating towards there. So, day 2 of the homecoming.
You're so oily. Where's Dad? Must be out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix a lot of stuff on this recording, I guess.
自分で育てた薬草で薬作るのが好きなんだよな、親父。
Again, I'm pretty sure that is the girl with the broom.
見ない顔だな。よそのカムロか。親父なら
Poisoning? Drug overdose? Well, if you made them throw up, don't lay on their back. Face down. Don't drown in your own vomit.
女の呼吸も浅い。喉に嘔吐物が残ってないか確認する。そっちを頼む。脈もない。喉には詰まってない。
There you go, chest compressions.
唾液だけか。
I am pretty good for just immediately picking up CPR tactics.
水を持ってきて。水は飲ませるな。炭だ。炭を用意しろ。はい。
Yeah, you don't want to be the brothel that somebody died in.
朝から一体何なんだよ。ああ、風呂入りたい。
ありがとう、薬屋さん。二人とも落ち着いたわ。
ああ、そのままにしてくれ。
吐いたものも
毒が残ってるかもしれない。
毒。お茶の準備するわね。
倒れていたのは妓女とその客。部屋には酒とタバコの匂いが充満していた。酒瓶が2つ。
So we're going to talk about wheat
割れた
stalks
ガラス
this
の器。
episode.
これは麦わらか。キセルにタバコの葉。めんどくさいことをやらかすもんだ。
これ、炭。
ああ、あと木管と書くものも。南の外壁のそばの畑にうちの親父がいるはずだから、後で連れてきてくれ。
Is this going to be a matter of, like, combining drugs, or do wheat stalks not... Oh, what are you up to, girl? Too many side eyes in this goddamn show.
遅かったな、親父。
この子が足を気遣ってくれたんだ。
炭は潰しておいた。
ああ、すぐに薬草に混ぜて飲ませよ
飲める？あの人は無事よ。薬も飲んだし。
う。
Is it going to be a matter of she poisoned herself to make sure he got poisoned too? You see that in a lot of stories.
1の情報から2も3も知ることができる人間だ。
これは何の毒だと思った？
来た。親父はたまにこうやって勉強させようとする。タバコの葉は猛毒だ。心中で使うならこれだと思う。
水は飲ませなかったようだね。
飲んだら逆効果だろ。
そうだね。胃液が毒の吸収を抑えることもあるから、その場合は逆効果だろう。でも、もしこれが最初から...
Well, I guess this is going to go ways to explaining why Maomao knows so much. It's from her dad.
葉が混じってない。見逃した。まだ寝ぼけてんのかな。水に溶かしたものであれば薄めた方がいい場合もある。よし、覚えた。
すまないね。
客用の茶菓子を振る舞うとはなかなか気前が良い。なるほど。器に紅が映らないように使うのか。
So, something coating the inside of the wheat straws is where the poison was, maybe?
いや、そんなにもらえな...
親父、今月やり手ババアに家賃払えるのか。
では。
まったくこの親父は。
Hey, the flower marking.
今回のは花町では珍し
Or
くもない
leaf,
心
as
中
were.
だろう。身請けできない男と年季の明けない女が揃えばそんなことばかり思いつくのだ。しかしあの男、身なりは随分上等だった。顔立ちも甘く、金にも女にも困りそうにない。偏見で考えると怒られそうだが、妓女との未来を憂いて毒を飲むようには見えなかった。
Maybe he didn't know he was doing it. Maybe it was the courtesan.
ちょっと様子を見てくる。男の方が容体が重かったな。
She was, after all, in the better condition, as pointed out.
邪魔しないで。こんなやつ死んだ方がいいんだ。
Yeah, there you go. She was being super obvious with the side eye, though.
あんたたち何してるの？薬屋さん、ちょっとお話いいかしら。
Maybe don't leave the girl who just attempted murder. Okay, say.
彼はもともと問題の多い客だったの。妓女に甘い言葉をかけて、身請けをほのめかしては飽きたら捨てるを繰り返す。恨みばかり買って逆上した女に刺されそうになったり、毒を盛られたこともあったわ。けど豪商の父親に甘やかされて ことあるごとに金で解決してた。最近では親に頼んで召喚まで護衛をつけてきていたわ。この子の姉もあの男に捨てられたの。これからは一緒に暮らせるって喜んでいたのに、身請けの当日に急に白紙にされて。
So maybe she did try to poison him?
許せなかったんだと思う。今回一緒に毒を飲んだ子にも懐いていたから。
だから目をつむれと。そんな客なら出入り禁止にすればいいものを。
入れ込んだのはあの子の方なの。
それで心中騒ぎとなれば召喚としては頭が痛い話ですね。やけに手厚かったのは豪商の息子を自分の店で死なせずに済んだからか。そしてそれが逆に理不尽に感じられたのだろう。
I have to think
わかりました。
that most of these stories there's something else we haven't learned yet. It's either that or it's going to be a double story.
親父のいない時間くらい知っていたかもしれない。普通なら医者を呼ぶ状況でわざわざ不在の薬屋を呼びに来たとすれば、あのカムロ小さい割に恐ろしい。
せっかく帰ってきたというのになんだったね。
親父、さっきの見せて。
I mean, she still has one day left.
ちゃんと入ってる。案の定口止め料まで。でもなんだか引っかかる。話からして男はかなりしたたかだ。そんな男が惚れた腫れたで心中など起こすものだろうか。ならば無理心中か。
Of course, he didn't know. Again, poison probably in the straw.
マオマオ、憶測で物を言っちゃいけないよ。
親父はもう真相に気づいているんだろう。
I guess I'm just also slightly confused what the mystery is so far.
タバコの葉は猛毒だ。心中で使うならこれだと思う。
Is it two things interacting with each other? Poison was in the tobacco, so that then when they drank from the straw, it got into the system?
なるほど。器に紅が映らないように使うのか。これは心中じゃない。殺人だ。
So she smoked it, didn't drink. He drank, it diluted into his system better. That's why she was able to.
麦わら。種類の違う2色の酒。
もう終わったことだよ。
わかってる。心中じゃなく殺人。しかも殺そうとしたのは妓女の方だ。犯行に使われたのはタバコをつけた毒の酒。
Oh, I misread the tobacco thing as a clue.
どうやって毒酒を飲ませたのか。簡単だ。毒味をしてみせればいい。妓女が無事なら男は酒を口にする。しかし実際に毒の酒を飲めば女も無事では済まない。そこで道具を使った。酒は2種類、器は1つ。酒は中身が違えば濃さや重さが違う。重い酒の上
I was gonna guess that when they said 2 drinks, 1 cup.
層ができて見た目が良い。客を喜ばせる小ネタとして使えば。
That way she could drink a different layer with the. Yep, there you go, with the straw.
下の層だけを麦わらで飲んでみせた。
I would just be this fucking detective at the back of the room guessing like 17 things in a row.
妓女も上積みの酒を飲んだ。死なないように少しの量を。自分も死んでしまえば元も子もない。
To be fair though, there's still enough that you needed to get an apothecary to save your life.
自分が生き残る計算を考えた上で朝方にことを起こしたのだろう。そして都合よくそれを発見する人間がいた。儚げだが、それでいてしたたかだ。
But what do you do with this? You've already gotten hush money.
カムロの行動はどこかおかしかった。男を手遅れにするためにわざわざ医者ではなく薬屋を訪ね、親父を呼ぶのにも時間をかけ
To
て。
be fair, it seems like apothecaries save more people than the doctors do in this world.
実の姉と同じように、また親しい者が死ぬとは考えなかったのだろうか。まるで死なないと分かって行動しているようだったなんて考えすぎだろうか。そしてカムロにやたら同情的な義女、金払いのいいやり手ババア。怪しいと思ったらいくらでも怪しいと思えてしまう。もしやみんな
Massive conspiracy to get this guy killed. Is it about him now or his father? Because also, where were the bodyguards we already mentioned were escorting him to these brothels?
本質は高級と変わらない。花園であり鳥かごだ。みんな閉じこもった空気に毒されていく。義女も周りの毒を食らうことで甘い毒へと変わっていく。あの義女がどうなるのかはわからない。ドラ息子が毒を飲まされたと訴えるかもしれないし、逆に召喚側が商品を台無しにされたと脅すかもしれない。どちらでもいい。
So the conspiracy mind is going. And I don't know, but I feel like there's more to this episode than...
めいめい姉ちゃん。
one of the three princesses.
年季がまだ1年残ってるし、仕事を放棄したら迷惑がかかる。
そう、せっかく帰ってこられたのに。マオマオが急に行方不明になってみんな心配してたのよ。パイリンもジョカもおばばも。
そんなこと一言も。
いつも通りだったでしょ。あんたが帰ってきたからよ。
そっか。
やだ、寂しくなっちゃった。よしよし。
めいめい姉ちゃん。
So there's two more people here than there were before.
後で行く。
Okay, it was nothing. I was misreading it.
気をつけるんだよ。
親父も行ってきます。
I feel like it's only been 2 days. I thought she was supposed to have 3.
あっという間に終わった。
もう帰っちゃうなんて残念だわ。
Well, Peirin really did go for Lihaku.
実に残念だ。
いい夢見れたみたいだな。一度天井の甘露を知れば地上には戻れない。きっと生かさず殺さず絞り取られることだろう。とはいえ前払いで足りなかった銀を補うのは私だ。
帰ってくるときは連絡しな。
おかげで次の身売り先が決定である。
How Shun? I think we implied that would work.
こっちを睨んでいる。早めに退散しよう。では着替えてまいりますので。
後でいろいろ聞かせてね。
応接室で待っているぞ。
失礼いたします。なんだか態度が悪い気がする。気のせいだろうか。気のせいにしたい。気のせいにしよう。
I know that anxiety mind.
里帰り行ってきたようだな。
はい。
どうだった？
みんな元気そうで何よりでした。
そうか。
You figure if Jinshi is investigating everybody, that he would have investigated Maomao's father at some point.
意味が分かって言っているのか。その意味が。
ええ、身元のしっかりした交換でなければ引き受け人にはなれないと。
かんざしをもらったのか。
何本も配っていましたので義理でいただきました。
つまり義理でもらったものに俺は負けたんだな。
Well, outwardly expressing it, huh?
全く話は来なかったな。
俺？なんだ。要するに自分に話が来なかったのが気に食わないのか。不思議なものだ。面倒ごとには関わらない方が楽に決まっているのに。暇人だから夜会ごとでも構ってもらいたいのか。申し訳ありません。
I don't know, the confusion I have is this doesn't play into anything that I would outwardly think of Jinshi.
お前、それを李白ってやつに払ったのか。
ええ、一夜の夢に喜んでおりました。
That's not the right way to phrase that.
大変ご満足いただけたようで。
This is not going to turn out well.
頑張った甲斐がありました。何してるんですか？シミになる前にこれで。失礼しますよ。すぐ洗濯に出した方がいいかと。
Again, there's the element that Jinshi used to test girls for their loyalty. At least he said he did. I do hope somebody's going to explain this to him so the misunderstanding doesn't continue. There's the element of this show that I feel like there's a lot of things that happen that don't feel like they'll be massive clues for anything in the future, but then they turn out to be. Or, sorry, in my estimation that they turn out to be, because obviously I still have no freaking idea. I'm like wandering around in a dark room, taking pictures or puzzle pieces and putting them together in the dark and hoping that when we turn the lights on by the end of this season, that I put together the puzzle correctly. Like my idea that maybe Jinshi is the Emperor's younger brother, for example. I feel like that's put together with a couple of puzzle pieces, but I could still be completely wrong. I feel like this episode has more layer to it than maybe we just went home for a day, right? That courtesan poisoning somebody, the idea that their father was very important wasn't just a nothing throwaway. The idea that the bodyguards were missing, right? Where were they in that scene? I don't know who that was. They were wearing purple, I think, implying that they were of the... Oh god, brain. Work with me here. Implying that they were either of Li Hao's household or the Adu household. Consort, palaces, whatever. But then again, that could also just be what I talked about before when I suspected who the person with the burnt wrist was. That in fact they were just standing in firelight, which made them look more red than otherwise, making me have to change my whole conceit about what color clothes they were wearing. That this was one of those blue nighttime appearances, which could turn any white clothing into a purple or a blue based on vision, so no way to see that one through. I mean, ultimately, I was right about what the character focus was on this episode, and that was clearly that girl that was sweeping last episode. Unfortunately, clearly could not have told you anything about the whole poisoning that went on here. And legitimately, the only guess I had right was that it had something to do with wheat stalks, but then again, the name of the episode was wheat stalks, so I was quite clearly wrong about everything. At least it does answer somewhat of a segment of the question about where does Maomao get all of her learning from, her intelligence, and it seems to imply that her dad is a Sherlock Holmes level apothecary himself. He gets 3 pieces of information from just one piece of information. So at least that goes away to explain my questions about Maomao and how she knows so much. At the same time, where does her dad get all that information? Now, granted, he's quite old, so he could, he could have a whole background of learning that I would never know about offhand. There's also the element that last episode he eyeballed Maomao while she was going to sleep and called it a bit ironic that she was now serving in the rear palace, which then raises the question about what is his background with the rear palace. I still think it's quite an obvious red herring to throw out the fact that maybe he is associated with all of my conspiracy notes about what's going on in the rear palace. That said, I don't know. Obviously, if I was to question mark everybody I suspected of anything on this board, I would have question marks all over the place. That's why I have to leave it mostly onto the notepad, so that I can then search back what I thought about people along the way. That said, though, again, the element here is that just enough happened that seemed almost inconsequential to an overall story that I don't really have any deep thoughts about what's going on in this specific episode until I go back and rewatch it for my notes, in which case I'll be able to pull out more minute things that I'll have time to pause, take a note for, consider, that sort of thing. Because there's also the element at play that I cannot let go, that it might not be important now, but they could be introducing the concept of a thing so that when it happens later, that we will then have the foresight to know. Again, tobacco is a poison. Liquids have different weights and thicknesses. Straws can be used to drink liquids at different heights. Again, things that we can keep an eye out for that are now in our minds that may not previously have been there before. Although I don't know how easy that's going to be for me in the moment to try and pull out in the middle of a mystery, especially if that mystery gets solved during that episode. Because obviously, as I've already pointed out, I jumped to 5 different conclusions about what happened to these 2 people. And literally, I only had 10 seconds between Maomao pointing out that liquids have different weights and thicknesses before I could have jumped to, oh yeah, no, the straw. And Maomao was already answering it. So, I don't know. Either way, I think that's it for this episode. I think I've talked myself through just about everything that happened that is still sitting in my mind. So, once again, I've been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye. Alright, yeah. As Phil Fisher just reminded me, we have the Maomao's notes, or whatever we're calling it. I keep forgetting. The added next time on thing. That also explains a little bit of what happened to this episode. So, let's go ahead and hop into that and see if that adds anything. Because there was that one time that the next time on added more context between the relationship between Jinshi and Maomao. Like, they covered what happened in the episode prior. They covered the next time on, and then there was a good, 20 more seconds of character interaction. So, not for nothing, but they do add a little bit in these Maomao's notes thing.
Maomaoの独り言。
では、李白とはずっと別行動だったというわけか？
はい、何度も申し上げた通りです。
So conceivably, if this is all canon, then he does explain it.
拍車がかかっている。
実家に帰り、
I mean, she does explain it.
義女と客の男を助けたと。どうやって助けた？
毒を吐かせて応急処置をした後に、炭を薬草に混ぜて二人に飲ませて。
炭を飲ませた？
ここで、
I mean, the charcoal thing is known.
炭は体内に取り入れることによって毒素を吸着。
This is why I didn't mention anything about the charcoal. I think we all know charcoal is good for eliminating negative shit in the body.
結局心中だったのか？
わかりません。毒を飲んだ女は男よりずっと軽傷でしたし、カムロは処置を遅らせようとしたり、回復途中の男を襲ったり。
なんだと
？I just openly tells him that.
口止めを図ろうとする義女や、やたらお礼を弾むやり手ババアがいたり。
怪しいな。
真相はわかりません。
自殺か他殺か、気になる。
次回、自殺か他殺か。花町と高級は本当によく似ている。
本当に李白とはずっと別行動だったんだな。
なんでこんなしつこいんだ。
Gave you the pin. I mean, hairpin. Yeah, he gave you the hairpin. I mean, it is interesting that he says suicide or murder, which is again the name of next episode. But then again, she does imply that maybe the Pleasure District and the Rear Palace are not so different. Because when he said it, I thought he was implying that maybe the next time actually deals with the same subject matter. But again, I have the feeling that it's just another case of we're being introduced to the concept of a thing in one episode, and then another episode is going to use that thing. But I can't move past the idea that there's more to this episode than actually just introducing us to the concept. Because if that was the case, then I'm waiting for so many different concepts from previous episodes to pay off. Or have the most complicated mystery on how somebody gets poisoned or assassinated or whatever ahead of time, and have to use everything we've learned from every episode so far to figure it out. Because either it's going to be some sort of, oh, he drank face powder through a straw and a different layer of consistent. It's like, it's going to be so confusing. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. Yeah, no. I have to think there's something in this episode which is going to be politically important, and that maybe the medicinal poisoning side of thing is going to be the thing that's carried forward later, to be looked at there. Because again, the bodyguards, who's the dad, was there more of an association between this courtesan and the people who he's hurt before than was laid out in the episode itself? There's a lot of things I'll be questioning, but those again will be in the notes for next time. So for realsies this time, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?